This is NBC Nightly News. With John Chancellor, who is on vacation, David Brinkley in New York, and tonight's special segment, Jupiter, a closer look.
Good evening. The U.S. Department of Justice filed suit against the city of Philadelphia, its mayor, and other officials, charging they allowed constant brutality in the city police department. The suit said people in general were abused and denied their rights, but the main victims were blacks and Hispanics. Justice wants an injunction against Philadelphia to stop this, the threat of denying the city millions in federal money. Here are two reports.
The Justice Department began investigating Philadelphia's police department 8 months ago, after police raided the headquarters of a radical organization. After a police officer was killed, police were seen beating and kicking a member of the group. Government lawyers say incidents of that kind were not unusual. The lawsuit charges that city officials condone police abuse, allow police to conduct illegal searches and seizures, discourage citizen complaints, condone the use of unwarranted deadly force, encourage surveillance of political leaders and minority groups, refuse to suspend or discipline officers convicted of crimes. This is the first time the government has sued an entire police department. At stake, millions of dollars in federal law enforcement money. Civil Rights Division Chief Drew Days said charging individual police officers would not have solved the problem.
Because we're convinced that in at least some instances, this type of misconduct flows not merely from individual aberrations, but from institutional failures. And the lawsuit that we've brought against the police department in Philadelphia is an indication of our belief that there has been such a breakdown in the institutional workings of that department.
The Justice Department officials said their point is not to punish Philadelphia by cutting off its federal funds, but to force city officials to reform their police department. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
In Philadelphia, city officials called a suit an outrageous political action that will aid and comfort those who break the law. At a news conference, officials said instances of police brutality are rare, that the city wins most brutality cases. Police Commissioner Joseph O'Neill said his department won't be kicked around.
And you know, it's an absolute disgrace here in America today that people would dare, absolutely dare to confront, verbally and/or physically, an armed policeman who, as the expression goes, take them on. And I don't know where in the hell we're going, but we certainly aren't going down the right road.
Mayor Frank Rizzo, once police commissioner, called the suit complete hogwash. And when he was asked about the federal government's threat to cut off money to the city, he got angry.
They threw in all the monies that this city receives. If you narrow it down, and don't hold me to it, the Philadelphia Police Department receives about $4 million. $4 million. And I'm ready to tell them to take it and stick it.
The Justice Department also is investigating charges of brutality against several other big city police departments. And what happens in court here could determine how the government handles those cases. Al Johnson, NBC News, Philadelphia.
The other cities the Justice Department is investigating, looking into charges of police brutality, are Houston, Memphis, and Mobile.
Switching from eyeglasses to sunglasses can be very inconvenient. Unless you have new Photo Gray Extra lenses. Indoors, they're eyeglasses. Outdoors, they darken to sunglasses in less than 60 seconds. Get Corning's fastest, darkest lens. Because sometimes one pair of glasses is better than two. New Photo Gray Extra lenses by Corning.
A surprising message to Rolaids users. Tums neutralizes 1/3 more acid than Rolaids. Watch this familiar demonstration. 1 Rolaids and 1 Tums tablet are added to stomach acid. Both neutralize the acid. But on those occasions, when your stomach has even this much more excess acid, Tums can still absorb it. Rolaids can't, because tablet for tablet, Tums neutralizes 1/3 more acid than Rolaids. For acid indigestion and heartburn, take Tums.
President Carter is irritated to see farm prices falling while food prices in the supermarkets continue to rise. He thinks it must be the middlemen, the wholesalers and processors who buy from the farmers and then can, bottle, cook, freeze, wrap, and otherwise handle the food and sell it to the grocery stores. So the president called a group to the White House today and asked about their prices. Here are two reports.
In this presidential attempt at face-to-face jawboning, there was disagreement over statistics on food prices. 16 processors and retailers were summoned to the White House. Executives of big supermarket chains such as A&P, Pathmark, and Kroger, of Jewel, Safeway, and Winn-Dixie, of Hormel Meat and the American Meat Institute, and so on. The president told them he was concerned over the increasing spread between farm prices and prices charged in food stores.
In the last 3 months, farm prices have gone down, I think, 17%. And the farm to the retail spread has gone up 29%. In some food items, it's gone up at an extraordinary level. Meat, 109% increase in the farm to retail spread in the last 3 months. And fresh fruits up 90%. At the same time, the cost of processing and distributing has only gone up about 13%.
At this point, the press was asked to leave, but later, the president of the Food Marketing Institute, Robert Aders, said the executives disputed the president's figures.
I think the answer that the president received today was that the data that he's using is wrong. After our meeting, I have the clear impression that the president understands that food retailers are not profiteering, and that he is very open to the information we submitted to him.
But still later, the president's inflation advisor, Alfred Kahn, said this just wasn't so, that the president was not convinced that the food men weren't profiteering, and that the president remains skeptical of the food industry's arguments that the figures are wrong. Robert Hager, NBC News, at the White House.
In Pittsburgh, the owner of this small food processing company says he is forced to raise prices 2 and 3 times a year. Even so, he says, his profits are declining.
Sales are constantly increasing. Our profits are constantly decreasing, not only in percentage of sales, but in actual dollars and cents.
The Tambellini Food Company makes Italian food products. Its most popular item is frozen pizza. Tambellini purchases the pizza crust from a bakery, but he makes his own sausage and sauce. Pork is his most expensive ingredient.
Today our meats have quadrupled, and our retail price is between $1.99 and $1.29 a pound. So the meat has quadrupled to us, and the retail price of our products has tripled.
Bruno Tambellini says he has tried to keep prices down, and he will keep trying. But he says when his costs go up, so must his prices. All of which suggest President Carter's request will have little effect. Denise Baker, NBC News, Pittsburgh.
Foreign money continues to pour into the U.S. from the Middle East, where they have so much they hardly know what to do with it, and from Western Europe, where people send their money out because they're fearful of the economic future. In this country, their money buys real estate, businesses, 10 million acres of farmland. 26 states now have legal restrictions on foreigners buying land. Iowa has the toughest law of all. Here's Jim Cummins in Taylor County, Iowa.
Some of the most productive and expensive farmland in the country can be found in Iowa. Here in Taylor County, most of the land is owned by Iowans who farm it themselves. But this farm was recently sold to a West German businessman, Manfred Buhmiller. Buhmiller hired somebody else to farm this land for him because Buhmiller doesn't live here. He's a non-resident alien. They call them foreigners around here. Realtor Harold Maines says foreigners have bought 2 other farms in Taylor County, and Maines has a file full of letters from foreign buyers. One wrote he has $24 million to spend. This 2,200-acre farm in northern Iowa was bought by the Metternichs, a West German family. Jim Thomas is an agent for the Metternichs and more than a dozen other foreign investors.
My clients feel that America is the last stronghold of democracy and the last safety that they maybe have for their investments and for their great-great-grandchildren.
But Horace Daggett considers foreign investors a threat to his grandchildren. Daggett farms 480 acres with his wife and 2 sons. He's also a state representative who sponsored a law to prohibit foreigners from buying farmland in Iowa.
If some foreigner wanted to come here and start farming, I think he'd be welcome to do it if he takes out nationalization papers and becomes a citizen and becomes part of us.
Laws similar to Daggett's have been passed in 25 other states. His is the toughest so far. It takes effect in January, but could be declared unconstitutional in the meantime. If it is, Daggett says he'll write another law to keep foreign money away from Iowa farmland. Jim Cummins, NBC News, Taylor County, Iowa.
The Virginia AFL-CIO has urged its members to stop buying U.S. savings bonds because it is angry at President Carter for holding down federal employees' pay raises down to 5.5%. Many of them are union members. They want bigger raises, so they will retaliate by refusing to buy the bonds.
This card from Unity Buying Service can help you save up to 10 to 50% or more on the things you really want, like this or this. Here at Unity, you can choose from over 10,000 nationally advertised products and save on every one of them. You save because Unity buys in huge quantities for over 1.5 million smart consumers. Your Unity card is coming by mail with details on how to start saving right away. So watch your mail and save, save, save with Unity.
Sandy Duncan for Wheat Thins.
When I was growing up in Texas, Nabisco products were all over our house. You know, we had crackers and cookies and everything. So it's sort of funny that I would grow up to represent one of their products. I like Wheat Thins with cheese and fruit, but I think my favorite way of eating Wheat Thins is just right out of the box. One after the other.
Wheat Thins, the light little cracker with the big wheat taste, baked only by Nabisco.
This is Aldo Cella. He is not a slave to fashion. He speaks no French. But Aldo Cella knows what women like. Cella Bianco, a very special white wine.
Aldo.
A stadium to seat nearly 20,000 people is being built near Chicago's O'Hare Airport. This morning, the stadium's roof collapsed and 5 workmen were killed. Here's Fred Briggs in Chicago.
The stadium is being built less than a mile from one of the runways at O'Hare International Airport, and the roof collapse came right after a large jet went overhead, making its final approach to that runway. 26 construction workers were on the job at the time. 5 of them were killed, another 15 injured. From the air, the collapse appeared total. The wooden beams and plywood being used to cover those beams looked like piles of matchsticks. The FAA says it doesn't know yet whether the noise of approaching jets, which pass as low as 200 feet above the area, may have caused vibrations that weakened the roof. But survivors like Robert Sebra feel there's a connection.
The roof just caved in. Jet went over and down it came.
Many in the community opposed building the stadium here, but Rosemont officials and the contractor say a new roof will be built, and the stadium will be completed. Fred Briggs, NBC News, Chicago.
There is increasing illegal immigration from Haiti to Florida, and smugglers are paid to bring them in. Before dawn this morning, a boat cruise smuggling 18 Haitians arrived off West Palm Beach, Florida, and the crew forced them to jump over the side a half mile from the shore. The 6 drowned. The others were captured. So was the boat crew. Here's Ike Siemens.
Divers searched for bodies at dawn near West Palm Beach. 18 Haitians had been forced to jump from a smuggler's boat which was bringing them here from the Bahamas. The crew was apparently frightened by a police car spotlight on land. 6 Haitians drowned. 5 were children, 4 to 12 years old. The other victim was a young woman. A survivor says members of the crew threw the youngsters into the water to force the others to jump in after them. A shotgun was fired to scare those who didn't want to swim to shore a half-mile away. Those who made it were picked up by police and are being held for entering the United States illegally. About 8,000 Haitians who did not want to return to Haiti have come to South Florida from the Bahamas in recent years when their work permits expired. Many paid smugglers to bring them here. An interpreter for this group says they paid $550 each. Later, the owner of the boat and 2 other men were arrested. Police say 2 of them will be charged with 6 counts each of first-degree murder. Ike Siemens, NBC News in Florida.
The great Mexican oil slick in the Gulf of Mexico has been breaking up into smaller patches and drifting slowly toward the Texas coast. Here's Willie Monroe on South Padre Island.
The giant oil slick has been breaking into smaller portions as it moves toward the Texas coast. This ribbon of thick, heavy oil called mousse was spotted today about 20 miles off the coast of Brownsville. It's about as wide as the length of a football field and 10 to 15 miles long. Other patches of oil and sheen were spotted farther north. John Robinson of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says there is an immediate threat that a large concentration of oil could hit the coast within the next 24 hours.
We should have more of the same isolated patches coming across into U.S. waters. Depending on where they are, they may pose some threat to the coastline.
There is still a chance oil will break up into smaller quantities before reaching the desolate beaches north of the South Padre Island resort area. Authorities say they are prepared to clean up whatever comes before it harms the environment. Willie Monroe, NBC News, South Padre Island, Texas.
There were steady rains today in the Pacific Northwest, and they were helpful to the firefighters trying to control forest fires in 5 states. Now they say they hope to put them out, or at least contain them, by this weekend.
Excuse me, what did you have for breakfast?
A stale Danish and a fresh waiter.
And then?
Indigestion.
Indigestion, Pepto-Bismol. And what did you have for lunch?
Sticky spaghetti, warm beer, and cold coffee.
And then?
Indigestion.
Indigestion, Pepto-Bismol. It coats, soothes, relieves.
We put the Hearts 2-in-1 Plus collar on our pet one spring day, and that same long-lasting collar still kills ticks and fleas today.
All summer long it keeps them free. Protect your dog, your cat, your family.
Get the long-lasting collar that kills both ticks and fleas. Put the plus on your pet, the Hearts 2-in-1 Plus.
Put the plus on your pet, the Hearts 2-in-1 Plus.
Mom's incredible. She has arthritis, but insists on making the family breakfast, even when her arthritis is acting up. Some mornings when she got up, she'd take aspirin, but she's more careful to use Bufferin now. Aspirin sometimes upset her stomach, but Bufferin adds protection ingredients. Bayer and Anacin don't. Bufferin relieves her minor pain and its stiffness fast.
Morning, Grandma.
And it works for hours. Thank goodness Mom's more careful to use Bufferin now.
On Sunday in Tehran, an angry mob poured into the streets, about 100,000 people, rioting with clubs and rocks in protest against the Khomeini government's closing down newspapers critical of him. It was the worst public disorder since Khomeini took over, seen here in pictures by a British television crew. The size and fury of it were surprising to those who thought he had the country under control, perhaps a surprise to him. The government said all these people were leftists who joined in the uprising against the Shah, but who now are bitter at Khomeini's conservative, religiously oriented leadership. Now, that was Sunday. Today, another mob of Khomeini supporters came into the streets and attacked what they took to be members of yesterday's mob. They sought out what they call leftists and beat them with clubs, smashed offices, furniture, and so on. 2 mobs fighting each other in a deeply troubled country. In Dallas today, the president's special Middle East mediator, Robert Strauss, tried once more to reassure Israel. Once again, he set out the government line. The U.S. will never deal with a PLO unless it recognizes Israel, and it doesn't want to see a Palestinian state. Only Palestinians with a right to a certain amount of self-government in the occupied territories. A highly regarded directory of the world's naval power, Jane's fighting ships, says today the United States and other free countries have allowed their naval power to decline. And so it says they may soon be vulnerable to military blackmail by the Soviet Union. The U.S. and the Soviet Union still test nuclear weapons underground. It is possible sometime they will sign a treaty to stop this. If so, each side will have to be confident it can check on the other to make sure it is not cheating. Here's Ford Rowan in Alexandria, Virginia.
16 Soviet scientists and their British and American colleagues have been touring seismic monitoring facilities in the United States. In effect, the Russians are being told how to verify a treaty banning underground nuclear tests. An underground nuclear explosion, like this one in Alaska, sends out seismic waves through the earth. Seismological devices have been developed to measure the waves, and sophisticated computers have been programmed to analyze the seismic data, so scientists can tell the difference between earthquakes and man-made explosions. American scientists are confident that if underground tests are banned, they will be able to use this equipment to detect any cheating by the Russians. Sources say the Russians want the same capabilities. So negotiators are exploring the possibility of sharing seismic data with the Soviet Union, placing American seismic monitoring machines inside the USSR, and sharing computer technology with the Russians.
We're not proposing to share technology in order to induce them to sign up, but we are developing this technology, and it is all unclassified, and we are indeed familiarizing them with it as well as the British people.
Sources say there's been progress in negotiations between the United States, Britain, and the Soviet Union on a comprehensive test ban treaty. Ford Rowan, NBC News, Alexandria, Virginia.
The FBI predicts a big increase in bank robberies for all of this year, and there is something approaching an epidemic. In New York City, more than 450 bank robberies so far this year, and early this month, 14 banks were robbed in one day. Well, generally, this increase is blamed on recession and bad unemployment figures, but an FBI agent says people who rob banks don't work. Bank robbery is their work.
Don't worry, Mom. I'm eating right.
Don't worry, Mom. I'm eating right.
Don't worry, Mom. I'm eating right.
They're eating right here at an Arby's roast beef restaurant. Eating Arby's slow-roasted, so wholesome roast beef sandwiches. Slices and slices of tender roast beef. The kind of roast beef Arby's takes the time to make right.
Don't worry, Mom. I'm eating right. Don't worry, Mom. They're eating at Arby's.
When you work or play too hard, pain can grip you as muscle aches. Break the grip of pain with Ben-Gay. When minor arthritis pain flares up, even simple tasks can be painful chores. Break the grip of pain with Ben-Gay. Ben-Gay's fast, temporary relief breaks up nagging pain and its stiffness where it lives deep down in your muscles and joints. That's why Ben-Gay is America's #1 selling pain relief rub. So when pain has you in its grip, break the grip of pain with Ben-Gay.
Oh, I can't fold this right. Relax, Don. You have a nice trip mapped out.
It's not the trip. The doctor says caffeine makes him nervous.
Oh, you should drink Sanka-Brand decaffeinated coffee. But I only like real coffee. Sanka-Brand is real coffee, and taste it. Try it. This is real coffee. That looked like a great trip. Oh, it was.
And switching to Sanka-Brand helped make it a second honeymoon.
Sanka-Brand, the coffee that lets you be your best.
Astronomers had learned more detail about the universe in the last few years than in the entire previous history of astronomy. And they're still learning more from the pictures being sent back every day to Earth by the Voyager satellite. Frank Bergholzer, in our special segment this evening, went to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena for a report on what is being learned.
On a clear night, with a pretty good telescope, you can see Jupiter with its bands of darkened light and its satellites clustered around like bright little stars. But if you could go to Jupiter, as Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 have done, you'd see this, the great disk with its turbulent clouds and the satellites no longer points of light, but globes in orbit, individual and distinct. Callisto, a case of frozen animation, virtually unchanged since its creation 4.5 billion years ago. Ganymede, also dead and unchanged for 3 or 4 billion years. Europa, smooth as an icy marble, strange and mysterious, with crisscross lines you might think were made with a giant felt-tip pen. Tiny Amalthea, so weather-beaten it isn't even round. And Io, incredible Io, vibrantly alive with its previously unknown volcanoes, blue fireworks on the horizon. There are seas of liquid sulfur, and there are massive geysers like Old Faithful, squirting material that falls in a circle of sulfur dioxide snow. From the far side looking back toward the sun, Jupiter displays its hitherto unsuspected rings, the outer bands filled with debris the size of Volkswagens. On Jupiter itself, the formerly mysterious Great Red Spot, that big red eye, is seen now as an aging storm system. In the midst of swirling, churning cloud formations, the smaller spots nearby, just like it but white instead of red. The white clouds that look like thunderheads may be the source of the previously unknown lightning bolts discovered by Voyager, energy sources that, together with chemicals known to be in this atmosphere, make Jupiter the last spot in the solar system where we might seriously hope to find extraterrestrial life. That's one of the questions scientists have hoped Voyager's close-up photos would help to answer. Until now, it was feared any newborn organisms would be carried to destruction by violent upward and downward vertical currents in this turbulent atmosphere. When photos were spliced together to make a movie, they showed the white zones and the dark belts circulating in opposite directions around the planet, completely changing the earlier idea that these were vertical currents, as meteorologist Gary Hunt explains.
So it indeed could be, in some situations, around nearly these equatorial regions where the velocity structures are much weaker, and we may get much slower vertical velocities than previously we had thought. We can't throw away the life hypothesis yet.
Only the United States has the technology and the machinery to use that huge laboratory in deep space and to send back the new answers to the great mysteries of life and creation. The next machine to go will be called Galileo, and it will send a probe deep into Jupiter's atmosphere, a probe that may help answer the vital question of whether there is an area of gentle currents where the chemical biological elements might have survived. Voyager astronomer Bradford Smith.
But in any case, whether they are being destroyed, which would pretty much preclude the possibility that life has been able to evolve, they're still there in some concentration. And by going there and getting down into the Jovian atmosphere, we would have a very good understanding of what sort of processes were taking place at the time that life evolved on the Earth.
The Voyagers rediscovered Jupiter, so now we have a whole new set of new questions to be answered. Frank Burkholzer, NBC News.
Thank you. Good night for all of us at NBC News.
Tomorrow morning on Today, a public defender details charges of police brutality in Philadelphia.
Here are some of the big novels for television coming this fall on NBC. Holocaust, an encore of the television event that stunned the world. To Kill a Cop, Joe Don Baker's a tough chief of detectives after cop killers. The Last Convertible, 5 guys and the lady who drove them wild. This fall, see why we're NBC
Red Lobster asks, what did you have for lunch today?